Now we're going to drive to the southernmost tip of Mackall Road, the site of what was originally St. Leonard's Wharf and later became Mackall's Wharf. From the early 17th century and onward, this wharf has been a central hub of commerce in Calvert County. Traveling north from the mouth of the Patuxent, approximately 8 miles up the river, steamboats would turn northeast and enter the tranquil shelter of St. Leonard Creek. The first port of call on the creek was Mackall's Wharf, about a half a mile into the creek. Mackall's Wharf is rich in the history of both nation and state. The Mackall's Wharf area was originally settled in 1652 by Captain Peter Johnson. Through death and marriage, the property passed to a distant relative of Captain Johnson, a British lawyer named Thomas Johnson. The Johnson residence was situated on the bluff above St. Leonard Creek. If you look to your left before the end of the road, you can see the bluff. The house became known as the Brew House because of its owner's hospitality. The Johnsons brewed pots of tea for sailors who stopped at the landing. This site is believed to be the birthplace in 1701 of Thomas Johnson III, an important figure of colonial Maryland who served in the American Revolution. Thomas Johnson III was a member of the Continental Congress and served 3 terms as the first freely elected governor of Maryland. Later, Johnson was appointed to the U.S. Supreme Court. The current brewhouse dates from the 1790s. As mentioned before, the creek was a setting for 2 dramatic naval battles in the War of 1812. In general, marine trade has been an important component of Mackall's Wharf from the early 18th century, so it was no surprise when Mackall's became a stop for steamboats. The naval records of the War of 1812 contain no records of a wharf at the brew house, and the site was probably not active until after 1821. The 200-foot wharf had a small rail cart that ran to the shoreline. The wharf area at Mackall's included a corn house, a warehouse, tobacco barns, a store, and a post office. In short, Mackall's had all the buildings that signify the existence of a busy country landing. Both passenger and merchant alike would be greeted with ample provisions and lodgings to make their stay pleasant and profitable. Dr. Richard C. Mackall purchased the plantations from a member of the Solers family in 1841. Richard Mackall was a descendant of James Mackall, who arrived in Maryland in 1666. By 1892, the wharf and the 2/100ths of an acre were owned by the Weems Steamboat Company. At the end of the 19th century, travelers to Mackall's Wharf could stay at the brew house, run by Mrs. J.B. Mackall, or several other rooming houses. An 1896 advertisement for Mrs. J.W. Peterson's boarding house offered a country home, location high and healthy, bathing shore 100 yards from house, sailing and rowing free to guest. Peterson's boarding house was located above Peterson's Point, now part of Jefferson Patterson Park and Museum. You can hear the excitement in the voices of Helen Gray and Daniel Brown as they reminisce about arriving steamboats and activities at the landings.
We used to have steamboats come from Baltimore down to Low Marble, bring groceries and everything. And you hear the old steamboats Sunday morning coming up that river blowing. It was beautiful to see it and hear it. So you know I've been here a long time. Yes, sir, the people come down on the steamboat because they had to help unload the boat, you know, with the groceries and stuff they bring for the stove. And people take their wagon and things and go there and load it on down at the Wharf. It was nice. We used to go down there and go in on. It was so nice. We could walk right down real close. Yeah, listen to you, honey. We hear the old boat, ooh, ooh. Mama said, here she coming. I said, yeah, can we walk down there? She said, yeah, but you better behave yourself. We just walked down there. It was nice. A lot of people come on the boat helping. They would get off and walk around. And the boat stayed there until Monday morning, Paul.
The shore was really a lot of sand. And you could go so far and the water won't be over top your knees off. So the pier was so long at some point that they had track, like a railroad track with a big dolly on, a huge dolly to run down this track. So to get the people groceries, they have their little grocery stores like sugar and flour and molasses and whatever. See, I know this. And they'll push that dolly out there and they will load it down with this stuff. The people with the tobacco, they ship it to Baltimore. The hogs with the tobacco, they push the tobacco out there. And the cattle, they ship the cattle, you know. Everybody had and all up the river.
Waterfront piers and landings naturally evolved into social centers. The wharves became a place to meet your neighbors and while away an afternoon waiting for the next boat. At the landings, rooming houses joined tobacco barns, meat houses, livestock pens, and canneries as the steamboat became more integrated into daily life. Steamboats also became thoroughly integrated into local economy, affecting investors both big and small. After a stretch of rough weather in 1886, a local paper reported that, since the steamboats have returned to the wharves, many of our boys have smiling countenances and bulging pockets. According to an 1896 publication about the Weems Steamboat Company route, at least one inn owner accentuated the culinary offerings of her boarding house, listing oysters, fruit, fresh vegetables, and milk for the table. She also offered all the recreational amenities of the waterfront: saltwater bathing, crabbing, fishing, and boating. After the Baltimore and Virginia Steamboat Company went bankrupt, the wharf property was sold in August 1936, along with the pier upriver at Ferry Landing, for $25. Thomas Mackall brought the steamboat wharf back into his family sometime after 1936.